Hello everybody, welcome back to Form Check Friday. I'm your host Bryce Krawczyk, and I'm here with your host Dylan Yakovets. And I spilled iced tea on my shirt. This series, if you don't know, we take your lifts, you send them to us, we take them, we critique them, we review them, we try to help you lift a little better. If you're interested in submitting, description box below, hit it up, there's a link, calgarybarbell.com. Let's get started. Why don't we? Well, should we dive right in?
Yep.
Do you have any news you want to discuss? Powerlifting news of the week?
Not really.
The news of the week is my media player didn't open there for a sec.
This is our first submission.
First submission.
This is Catalin. This is a squat. 142.5 kilos for 3. Started going deeper a few months ago. Not sure if he hit depth. Wondering what variations would help.
All right. So, unfortunately, we're in a squat rack where we're gonna be looking in the mirror. Try not to pay attention to the mirror. Look at like the reflection of this cross member or something. Or look like kind of down here a little bit. I think our head's going up a little bit. That might be making it hard to hit depth because we might be trying to be a little too extended. I talk about that a lot. Pull those ribs down a little and allow yourself to hinge. That's number one. Number two, how do we get deeper? Well, the best way to get deeper for a squat is to squat deeper. That one's pretty self-evident. But if you're looking for accessory movements, one of my favorites is gonna be any sort of tempo squat, especially a tempo paused squat. So if we're doing something like a 3-count tempo on the way down, a 2-count pause in the bottom, you're gonna become very positionally aware over time. Where did Miguel come from? I'm sorry, Miguel, I like your shirt, but we critiqued you last week. So, tempo squats, especially tempo pause squats, are a great variation. Some of the ones that I like to use are a 3-2-0, so a 3-count eccentric, 2-count pause on the bottom, normal on the way up. I also like a 3-0-0, so 3-count eccentric, no pause, normal on the way up, or a 4-count eccentric. Those would be some of the variations I would try. The other thing you could do is something like a paused squat, which is gonna help you build a lot of strength at that joint angle in the bottom, provided that you are active in that position. You don't wanna be doing a paused squat where you're relaxing into the bottom and going bleh. That is not a good pause squat. That is not gonna make you stronger in the bottom position. That's not gonna reinforce the strength at that joint angle because you're not getting an isometric contraction at that joint angle under load. So if you're gonna pause squat tight. And yeah, that's what I would say. Other than that, I think your squat's actually pretty darn good. That looked like a pretty heavy set. We saw some deviation on the last rep there, but overall, I think you got solid mechanics.
All right, so next up, we have someone who won the Form Check lottery again. Because I'm pretty sure we have critiqued Chow, his squat and his deadlift.
I feel like we've only done one of his other lifts, but Chow, let us know.
I'm like almost confident that we did both his squat and deadlift.
You might be right.
Which means he had the trifecta, all 3.
Yeah.
And he says the same in this one, doing the 16-week program. I think he was on week 5 at this moment.
Okay. So, unfortunate about this rack height, right? You get into a good, solid set position here. And then you have to lose position to get it out over these hooks. So, one thing I might try to do is invest in like a tiny little collapsible tripod, because you got somebody holding this camera. Instead of having them hold the camera, put the camera or your phone on the tripod and get them. There's a beautiful little spotting platform back here where a person could stand back, give you a good hand out of the rack and help you not have to lose so much position to get the bar out of the rack. I think that's gonna be way more helpful than having somebody hold your phone. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say about that. Now the press, the bench itself, so let's see, once you get it out of there, you get a pretty good position. I would say try to keep your legs on a little more as you set your butt down. Really try to drive that chest up to meet the bar. But overall, I think we're doing a pretty darn solid job. Like I think you maintain pretty good leg tightness. You got good pauses. The bar path is pretty good. This final rep here, we kind of start a little flared out on the way down and then tuck, as opposed to being a little smoother on the tuck in the descent. So something to note there, right? If you have to take an extra half second to set your upper back before you begin the descent of a rep, do it, right? It's not gonna be as tight as it was out of the rack, but it's better than trying to, starting the descent and then realizing like, oh, I gotta tighten my back halfway down. Chow, you got a good lift. You got a good squat here. I like it.
Good squat?
Good arm squat. You got a great arm squat here. The other thing I was gonna say is if you're looking to compete, watch out for the Chuck Taylor curse. I think the way that you orient your legs and your feet, you probably won't have an issue, but Chuck Taylors are notorious for kind of rolling up on the outside. And I've seen, I mentioned this before in form check, but I've seen lifters take red lights and have issues and even bomb because the refs won't give a start command because they don't feel like their feet are flat because it's the shape of the shoe. So just something to be aware of. I don't think it's gonna be an issue, but the only way to know would be to have somebody film your feet while you bench, which is weird, but hey, we're weirdos, right? We're power lifters.
Next up.
What? What's funny?
The foot thing just got to me, man. Next up, this is Carter, 315-pound deadlift, okay. Having issues with lockout.
All right, Carter, let's see what we got, man. All right. So this is an instance where I'm actually going to tell you to use your back more. Because I feel like we get to the middle point of the lift and you're like trying so hard not to do anything with your back. You're just pushing the hips through, but we're not like using the lats. We're not using the back at all. And I would say as you come past the knees, keep that back on, keep those lats on, like row it into yourself, not actually bending your arms, but like use your lats to pull that bar close and drive your chest up a little bit, right? This is exactly the opposite of what I cue a lot of people to do, right? But I think maybe Carter's a big fan of the channel and heard me say chest down too many times. And I mean, that's how it goes though, right? Is like a lot of times when you're making technical corrections, it's about keeping it between the ditches. And you go too far one way, you got to bring it back a little. And then you go too far that way, you got to bring it back a little. And eventually, that straight and narrow path of good technique, individual good technique gets narrower and narrower. It starts to make more and more sense over time. But yeah, I think that we're well strong enough for this, right? Just based on how well it moves off the floor. We could maybe work on some back positioning stuff, try to keep a little more extension there, maybe sit down a little bit more so we can get more of an upright back angle off the floor. But I think the biggest thing there is you're really just like going to the bar. You're trying to push your hips to the bar instead of pulling that bar to you. Like tighten those lats, lift with your back. Don't take your hips out of the equation, but I feel like your back is just like off here. Like we're just not really actively pulling with the back. And I don't believe in, what was the big thing? Activation, glute activation. Your glutes aren't active. The reason you have pain is because your glutes have somehow stopped contributing any muscular contraction. You have to do drills to wake your glutes up and scream, hey, because they're asleep. Anyways, that was a big thing for a while. But I feel like we're maybe not being as active as we could be in how we're approaching the deadlift. Like I want you to actively pull hard with your lats, right? Like don't try to be gentle with the deadlift lockout. Pull hard, use those lats, use your back a little bit.
Grip it and rip it, Carter.
Oh. We have a moment of silence for the fact that Dylan just said that and it might make its way into the video.
Everything makes it into this video. Next up, we have Philip.
I don't know if I'm ready.
And it is another deadlift.
Oh no.
Yep. 120 kilos for 5.
Is he gonna grip it and rip it? Are you gonna say grip it and rip it again?
Maybe.
Did I just say it twice? Let's move on. Sorry, what's going on here?
Philip is struggling to find a setup where the first rep is not significantly more difficult than the following reps.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's see here, Philip. All right, so let's just take a look at start position. All right, let's see if we can notice.
Oh, I think the camera's moving.
It is a little bit. So in your subsequent reps though, you're starting more over the bar. So two things. Number one, we're not totally resetting between reps. I feel like you're holding some tension from rep to rep, like you're setting it down pretty gently and you're maintaining tension. So if you're maintaining tension like that, it's gonna be way harder on the first rep where you don't have that sort of pre-tension from a past rep. One way you can work around that is by doing what's called a top-down setup. Now, it's really hard with straps, maybe nigh impossible with straps, because the top-down setup requires you to approach the bar as if you're setting down a deadlift, which seems to be part of the pattern that's successful for you here, right? But setting up bottom up is seemingly problematic. Now, one thing that I notice across all of your reps is you set up really far back behind the bar, and then before the bar comes off the floor, we get pulled forward, right? The hips come up, we get pulled forward. So that tells me we probably need to set up with a little more toe tension. We need to be a little more centered in the foot instead of so far back on the heels, but that happens every rep, right? We initiate and boom, there you go. See, right? Pretty far forward from where we tried to start the pull. Same thing there. Pretty far forward before we start the rep. Same thing there. Coming forward every rep. So, could we keep back a little better? Potentially, but I think the number one thing is gonna be doing one of two things. Number one, ditching the straps so you can set up top down. And number two, I should say, just doing more of a full reset between reps so that each subsequent rep from the first feels more like rep one. You're having to create that tension without the nice eccentric loading of setting the bar down, because I think that's really one of the things making a big difference here. One of these days, Dylan's gonna do the outro. I'm telling you, we're gonna make it happen. It's not gonna be today, but thank you to everybody for tuning in. Make sure to go check out the Calgary Barbell app. It's one of the best ways, not only to support us, but to get a bunch of really awesome training tools, to get programming, to get coaching from myself and Danny, who's one of our phenomenal coaches, of which we have a few. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, you can check all that out at calgarybarbell.com. We do a lot of cool stuff. We make apparel. And yeah, like and subscribe. Leave us a comment for the algo, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.